Hey, today we're going to try and smoke up a sirloin tip roast. We're going to tie it up, inject it up, season it up, and throw it out on the pit. Come on along, I think you're going to like it. Hey, if you like this recipe, check out the channel, hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell. Like it and share it with all your friends, and as always, it's greatly appreciated. Okay, here's our sirloin tip roast. It's a little over 3 pounds. Went ahead and tied it up because if you don't, it's just going to want to separate. So we just did that to kind of hold it all together as one big mass of meat so we can get even cooking. So next step, first step, we're going to throw our injection into this, and you know, it's kind of the injection we use on a lot of beef. It's 2 cups of water and then a tablespoon each of Miner's beef base and beef au jus. I did put a teaspoon of each of garlic powder and onion powder in it this time. But other than that, it's pretty simple. Kind of dissolve the beef base and the beef au jus into the water, then let it cool off just a little bit so you're not shooting scalding hot meat or juice into the meat. And we do this to add flavor and also to add a little bit extra moisture in it for the cook, because it is a fairly lean cut of meat. There is some connective tissue here in the center of this that hopefully we can cook down. We're also, our injection is we're going to use that as our mop sauce, and probably we'll probably pan this thing a little ways into it. I'm going to try to keep the temp down pretty low on it. Put it on the cooler end of the smoker and try to get as much smoke in it as I can. So there is no fat cap at all on this piece of meat. So since we have it tied up like that, it's pretty much the same size. So we're just going to go to town here and get going on seasoning this stuff. Season this thing up. Put lots of good stuff on it. We're going to start with a little bit of garlic and onion here first. Just get all the sides and the ends. Go over here to the onion. I'm giving it a light to a medium coat of all of this, so at least what I consider a lighter medium coat. And we're going to get us a little bit of black pepper. Black pepper, gotta have the pepper. I'm just trying to build us up a nice little bark or crust on the outside of this piece of meat. And I think I've said before in some of my other videos, I used to mix all this stuff together up into one container, and that way I just was shaking, you know, putting this all in one time because it was all into one container. Let me end up retying that in. That string's kind of loose. We'll get her. But after I messed with that for probably a year or two, I decided it was a lot easier just to leave everything in its own container, and I can really control how much of each seasoning that I'm putting on the meat, and it worked out a lot better for me. But if you're one of those people that likes to mix your seasonings together, you know, I say more power to you. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as the old saying goes. This is what works best for me. You need to figure out what works best for you. And this is Tony's Chargriller Creole seasoning. This is a really good a really good seasoning. If you can't find it where you live, Walmart usually carries this. I've been finding it at the local Save-A-Lot, but really good. Check it out. It's really good. And I think they might make a low sodium or low salt version of that too, but I don't worry about that. Now this is some Montreal steak. Give it a very good coat of that. And you'll probably notice I'm not really using any salt because all that is right here in this steak seasoning. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is put just a little bit of, give it just a little coat of paprika. If I can get it to come out, it's a new container of it, so it's usually hard to come out at the beginning. Looks like I got to shake it standing up to get it to come out. Oh. This is going to give it a nice color out there when it gets on the smoker. Gosh, it does not want to come out of there. Alright, that's pretty much all we're going to do with it. Pretty simple, pretty quick. There wasn't any trimming to do on it. It didn't have a fat cap anywhere around it, but like I said, there is some connective tissue in between it, and hopefully we can cook that down. So I'm going to cover that up with a paper towel. I'm going to let it sit for about 45 minutes or an hour, and that's probably about how long it's going to take me to go out and get half or 3/4 of a chimney of charcoal going, because I want to stay probably in the 250-ish range. I want to stay at the beginning. I'm going to put it on the cooler end, so hopefully I can stay around in the 225 range, but we'll see how it goes. It is a hot day outside, so the smoker's probably going to run just a little bit hotter. So I'll be back in just a minute when it's time to put this on the pit. We're out to the pit, and then we're going to talk a little bit how I got this set up. I have half a chimney of coals over there, so that's probably around 3 pounds, down in the firebox. I've got some pecan wood smoke. That's what you're seeing right here. I put my water pan, I set it on this end of the smoker right by the firebox. Now, remember I said I wanted to stay a pretty low temperature on this, and right now it's running 200 right here. That's going to work for me because I'm trying to get as much smoke into this small piece of meat as I can, and we're going to want to cook this really low. So, that being said, I know that this end is 25 degrees cooler than it says it is right here because I have an oven thermometer and I set it in here and I checked it. Never really checked this side. I've really never had any reason to cook hotter except right maybe at the end of the cook when the coals are running out and you don't want to make more coals. But the last video I told you a trick on that. That was just get some of your wood chunks, throw in there, get some of your heat from that. So we're just going to throw this in here. We've got some pretty good smoke going. I'm going to set this in here with the smaller end facing the smoke because I want the smoke to roll up over it. So at that point, that's really all we're going to say. We're going to put this thing to sleep for probably at least an hour. We'll come back and look at it in an hour and probably mop it. So when it's an hour, we'll come back. It's been about an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to look at this for the first time. I want to check the temp on this because we're only looking for maybe 140, 145. And we're going to keep good smoke on it, as you can see. And we're going to mop it while we're in here. It's showing 91. About 104 there. And I can tell a difference between when it was 91 where I poked in and how much more tender it was up where it was 100. So we're just going to let this thing keep going here. Now this was our injection and I keep it warm in there. Because you don't want to be putting a cold liquid, it's just going to slow your cooking process down. I also have another half a chimney of charcoal I'm getting ready to put in. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm going to check it again in about a half hour or 45 minutes. And probably when it gets up in the 110 range, I'll bring it in and pan it. And when it's time for that, it's going to be really quick. Small piece of meat, but when it's time for that, we'll come back, we'll be in the house, we'll pan it, and I'll show you what we do from there. Okay, it will take another 30 minutes, and I probed this thing in about 3 spots. It was 113, 111, 108, so we're right in that 110 range that I told you we were looking for, and the thing's really looking good. Actually pretty tender when I probe it. Now, I put this piece of meat on a rack inside this foil pan, and I guess a little word for the wise. when you do this, hold your pan up to the light, make sure it doesn't have any holes in it. It'll save you cleaning up a big mess some point. So if they aren't too bad, we rewash them and then use them again. So it you do that a couple times and they start getting holes and you'll start to get a mess. So now this is our injection and our mop. You want to just mop over this one more time. This thing's really looking pretty. Okay, now we're going to pour the rest in the bottom. So at this point, you don't need any more smoke on the cooker because we're going to foil over this. We're going to let this thing steam, kind of braise a little bit, and we get about 140, 145. We'll come back, we're going to slice this thing up, and I guarantee it's going to be good. It's been 3.5 hours. I kept that temperature, I don't know, 250, 225, and if it got up to 250, I would slide that thing over to the cooler side, and did a really good job keeping this at a constant temp. So, here's what she looks like. Probe's going in really nice. Got 145. We're going to let this thing rest. So, in about 10 minutes, let this thing rest. And I'm not going to waste those drippings. I'm going to take those out. I'm going to make a gravy, and I'll put a link to that down in the description, so you can check that out too, because we don't want to waste all those great drippings out of there. Be back in just a minute. Alright, we're going to uncover this. It just rested for about 15 minutes. It's looking to me like it's a good medium rare. You got the blood flowing. You're going to get your strings off. Remember, we tied it at the beginning. See it? There it is. Pull those out of there. Nobody wants to eat a string. They really don't. At least I don't. And we're going to slice into this thing and see what we got. I'm expecting a good medium rare. Slice down through the center. Oh, this is definitely a medium rare. I don't know if you can see or not, but that smoke ring is down to there. I mean, that's pretty good. We kept that temp, 225 pretty much. If it got up to 250, I just slid over to the cooler side. So we stayed about 225 the whole time, and panned it after what, about hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. I think we panned it, and like I said, it took 3.5 hours at a very low temp. And I'm going to take a slice of this right here, and you can tell there is a crust on this. I know you can't tell. It smells really good. We're going to take this a little bite here. See what happens. Yeah, definitely putting the garlic powder and the onion powder got more flavor down into the meat. think I'll be doing that from now on. This is really good. I think I'll make up a sandwich and be right back. Alright, we're making us up a sandwich here. You know, this was a fairly cheap cook. That thing was only like a little over 3 pounds. It was 11 bucks. I say well worth the money. The flavor's great. The bite ain't too bad. We got a pan full of gravy, and now it's time for me to take a bite. See what we got. It's awesome. The gravy from the drippings, yeah, I think that sends that over the edge. You're gonna like it. You gotta try it. Till next time, keep it smoking.